We're going to talk today about what the book calls partial quotient division. And it's a different way of dividing. It's something that is probably not familiar to parents. It was not familiar to me when I started teaching fourth grade. I got to be honest. Something I kind of had to learn. But at the same time, once you kind of understand it, it actually makes sense. Not saying it's the best way to divide, but it provides a pretty good introduction to the kids. And what other teachers have said is once kids understand this way of dividing, it's actually a little bit easier to teach them the more traditional method. So what we do is, let's just say we had this problem. 681 divided by 5. Draw a line like this. And then the way I've asked the kids to approach it is to think of making an estimate first. Estimating the quotient. And to do that, we look at this divisor, which is this number right here. We look at the divisor, and I have them also look then at the first number in what we call the dividend. And then I have them just to ask the simple question, more like traditional division. How many groups of 5 can you take out of 6? Now we are estimating. So in the case of 6 and 5, 5 obviously is really close to 6, so it would just be one group that we could take out. If it was something different, if instead of being 681, let's say it was 981, then I might estimate that I could take 2 groups of 5 out, and it's okay to be over because it is an estimate. But since it's 681, let's stay with that. And I can take one group out, so I just write that at the top, and then I look and see that there are 2 additional place value spots right there. So for each one of those, I just add a 0. And then I write an estimate over here, and I put a little dash. And that's just to get a kind of a quick estimate to give us an idea about what our quotient should be. I found also that especially with these larger numbers, like the 3-digit and the 4-digit numbers, it gives us a good starting point for what we're going to do with getting those partial quotients. And the way I like to think of partial quotients, and the way I've explained it to the kids, is like taking bites out of an apple. And we're taking bites of 5. And we want to take bites of 5 to get as close to 681. And since we used an estimate of 100, if we took 100 5s, that would be 500. That's relatively close to 681. And so I'm going to take my first bite, 100 groups of 5 out of there. And that leaves me 181. And then I can approach that the same way. I could say, about how many 5s could I take out of 1? And I can't do that, so then I would move over, just like traditional division, I'd move over and look at this 8. I'd say, how many 5s can I take out of 18? Well, I can take about 4. But 4 times 5 is 20. 20 is bigger than 18. In this case, I probably don't want to go over. So I would probably just take a bite of 3 out of there. So I could take, and it would be 30, since it's 181, there's that extra place value spot. Or I can just start thinking of my multiples of 5, which is one of the ways we did it in class also. Since I've got it down to a smaller number, I know that 10 groups of 5 is 50. Well, what about 20 groups of 5? Well, 20 groups of 5 is 100. That's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and take 20 groups of 5 out. And that's 100. And I just write that over there to remind me that I'm subtracting 100. 180. And now I've got it down to 81. I can't take 20 more bites out. So I'm just going to take 10 bites out. Or a bite of 10, I guess I should say. And so that's 50, and we're down to 31. We're getting closer. Can't take 10, but what times 5 gets me close to 30? Well, 6 does. 6 times 5 equals 30. I'm going to subtract 30. I get 1. I always have them look to make sure that this, what's left over, is indeed less than that divisor, because if it's not, we can take another group of 5 or more out of that apple there. And so to find out what the answer is, the quotient is, I would add 100 plus 20 plus 10 plus 6, and I'd get 136, and I would have a remainder of 1. And then I always have them check their work because it's so important to help find those mistakes. They really think, I've done it once, I'm done. But if we check our work here, 8, carry the 1, 680, plus my remainder of 1 gives me 681, and that matches my dividend up there. So I am done. My answer is 136, remainder 1. So that's how we do partial product division. We're taking bites out of the apple, and I like to use estimates to get those starting points to help. But it really doesn't matter how big or small the bites are. I mean, if you take smaller bites, obviously you're going to do more. You're going to have more steps. So the better the kids understand their multiples of 5 or 6 or whatever that divisor is, the closer they can come, the easier this is going to be for them. This is where knowing those math facts really comes in handy. I'm okay with them using their multiplication charts right now, but I've already told them that for the next test, we will not be using those. So it's just imperative they learn those math facts. So hopefully this helps explain it to you and tries to make sense of something that is probably pretty foreign to a lot of people over the age of 11.